kind of heavy sadness. And I have to think about it. What is that about? It's because of the people that are don't get it. They don't understand, and they're going to have to go through some really bad things. Does he have a Bible lessons for kids? I don't know. Only thing at his church, PC Native, I would call his church and talk to the staff there, and they could tell you if they've got something for kids. I bet they do. For me, not bummed out, just frustrated, impatient, and tired of all the foolishness. A lot of us. I mean, anybody that knows what's coming. I mean, we see all this stuff going on. It's old. People are tired of it. They're wore out. I see Paul Revere's in the house, and I see Thumper's on board, getting ready to fire up his TR, whatchamacallit. He's buckling up his safety belt and putting his hard hat on.
I'm LSA. It's a TR 3B.
3B, the 3B.
What 3B. Space pirates use,
Oh, I get it. Where's your flag, your pirate flag? You need a...
off my patch, too.
Oh, my goodness. How was your weekend?
Oh, different. I mean, not weirdly or got a bunch of leaves picked up. So good thing, because we woke up. Did you guys get snow last night?
No, it was actually, no, we had rain and it was warm most of the night. I think it was like 36 when I woke up. It wasn't bad. No, we didn't get any snow. I guess Sassy's out there in the YouTube chat. She said they got snow last night too. Oh, yep. Red Rob put up the pirate flag.
Yeah, we got about an inch last night.
Wow.
And, it's been slowly fading away today. But
interesting.
Redeemed Patriot, good evening. How are you doing? So yeah, it was, got up, it had a little bit of snow this morning, but we, instead of walking before the show this morning, I decided that I'd get up, get a shower, do the show. And then after the show, we went out for our walk today. And I'm getting tired of walking in the dark.
Yeah. Yeah. You got another couple months of that yet.
Yeah, but in the summertime at 4:30 in the morning, it's light out, and it's pretty nice. But this time of year, you go out, you leave in the dark, you get back in the dark, and and I've got lights for the dogs, little lights that hang on their collars so I can see them out there.
Oh, cool.
And I've got my headlamp on, but it's just. Getting up that early and go walk in the dark is like when I don't have to be at work, so I can do the show and then head out with the dogs, and it's light out, and I don't have to worry about putting lights on them, and I don't have to put a light on me, and actually enjoy and get a little vitamin D. Yeah,
there you go. Plus it warms up a little bit later in the morning, so
so.
Shaking it up a little, mixing it all up, get some variety in there.
Yeah. So anyway, how was your weekend?
Busy. It was really busy actually. So yeah, it was fun though. I had a good time. Yeah, saw my niece and nephew and did a little bit of shopping for the business, and then made some bath salts or something, some fizzy thing they throw in the tub. So made a bunch of those for the website. I got to start working on my website now and get that done so I can start selling that stuff. But yeah, it was a good weekend. Like you though, I'm getting tired of it being dark out like 4 o'clock. It's already getting dark. It's like, I hate this.
Yeah.
Hate it. But today, that's why I look forward to the 21st, because then it starts getting light again. It's like, oh, thank God.
December 21st, shortest day of the year, or the darkest day of the year, whatever you want to call it. And then from there on, the days start getting longer and the sun starts to come back and everything. And then that also lends itself to, shining a light on all the crap. So, I think that's going to be an important time.
Yeah. And then, it kind of wears you out too. There's times I think, like in the morning, sometimes if I have time, I'll listen to Dilly for a little bit, but there's times I can't even listen to him. It's kind of like, oh, I don't even want to know what's going on. I don't even want to know. I need a break. So it's like, it's just, it seems like there's a lot of bad news floating around, and it gets to you after a while. So yeah, I'm gonna watch a video about kitties or something stupid. So I'll do that and then go about my business, what I have to get done. But you can only take so much of that negative stuff before you start getting depressed. I think that's why they do it.
Well, I've been taking a break myself and walking through a couple of seasons of Stargate SG.
Oh, that's my favorite one. Yeah, I like Atlantis. Atlantis is my favorite one.
Yeah, Atlantis is a good one, but we haven't gotten to the season where they started Atlantis yet. So when I get to the season when they start Atlantis, then I start alternating. Between.
That's good.
Kind of fun because they both tend to, the two shows, for a while they were running together, they kind of cross-referenced between the two shows and things. So, anyway, but yeah, it was a good day today. Got the kids out for a walk and fixed Mom's refrigerator that was the fan was screaming like a banshee last week, and fixed it temporarily, and then got her a new fan, and it came in yesterday. So I went over and installed that for her today, and took the dogs for a walk, went to the grocery store, came back, and made dog food. So
yay! I was just talking about that tonight, saying I miss the days when we could watch Thumper make his dog food in the background.
Somebody has said, I should videotape the whole process and make a video out of it. I need somebody there to kind of be the camera person though, to videotape kind of the whole thing.
Yeah, that'd be easier, wouldn't it?
It would be easier. So anyway, I suppose we ought to light the fires, kick the tires and light the fires on this thing.
Yep.
I see Paul and Vector hanging around, so rather than keep everybody wondering what tonight's show about, I think it's time to get it started. So who's got a 3-2-1 out there? Shelly has a 3-2-1 out there for me. And Shelly, thank you so much, you and Roz, for the package. Roz came by yesterday and dropped it off, and thank you so much. Appreciate it. You are such a wonderful friend. Thank you so much. All right, kids. Would you all please, all passengers, please file on board the TR-3B1. We will be headed out here just in a few moments. Once everybody gets on board, find your seats. Please stow your gear either in the overhead cabinets or the underneath your seat. And we will ask you that you put your seats in the upright position, and your tables are also in that upright position as well. And we will get things rolling.
Yeah, and if any of you pirates think about having too much grog, there's always the space plank.
Here we go. Thank you, everyone, and welcome to 40,000 light years. And that last little maneuver that you see in the from the front screen of the TR3B is us just backing into our position so we have the proper view. All right, everybody is free to get up and move about the cabin. Please pay attention to the monitors, and we'll get on with tonight's show. And I want to say good evening to Paul and Vector. Good evening, gentlemen. How you doing?
Good evening. Good morning. How are you? Coming to you from Australia. How is everybody? Trendsetters.
Trendsetters. Yes. Good evening, everyone.
You use the word trendsetters, and I think of somebody in a yellow jumpsuit with, bell-bottom pants or something like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love the 70s. Let's play that disco. No, that's great.
No, Thumper. Actually, Vector started Hold the Line, and if you went to Parler or Twitter, you'd see that it's gone like wildfire. Like 2 days or 3 days after he did it, I was seeing other people making memes, and then all of a sudden there's a 15,000 posts of Hold the Line on the pound Hold the Line. So yes, we are trendsetters.
Okay. Now, this viral. Yeah, this viral.
So what is the bring me up to date on Hold the Line? I've heard it, haven't paid a whole lot of attention to it, so bring me up to date on that.
Well, Vector said it first on our show, and then all of a sudden people were making memes, and then so we're talking about trend setting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he set the trend. He started it, and then it got picked up from some of our listeners, and some people made memes, and then it went from there. It got, I don't know what it is now. If someone wants to pull it up and have a look, you might see how far it's launched out of here.
So that's over on which platform?
Well, it's on both. I don't know what Twitter is because I don't look at it, but I know the Parler one 3 days ago was like 15,000 posts of hashtag Hold the Line.
And I pulled that from Q's post, Hold the Line. That was a couple of months ago. So that was not a big hashtag at the time. So pushing it hard, and then it suddenly starts to blow up. People start to get the message. That was when it was apparent that POTUS was being cheated, his presidency.
Right.
Which of course we can't have. So yeah, very interesting. It's amazing how things can go viral very quickly.
Well, it's a simple phrase, and we definitely have to stand our ground. Don't let the weariness of war get you down. You just got to keep plugging away. Some days are better than others, and some days are really freaking great. Just keep plugging away until you have one of those really, really great days. And instead of making one step forward, you make 4 steps forward.
It's better to die fighting.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. So, well, for tonight's show, I've got a couple of things that have some things have caught some people's attention here recently. And we'll just dive right into the first one here. This actually showed up in my stack of stuff this morning when I was getting ready to do the straight shooting show, and found it kind of intriguing. But my first impression was, oh boy, this could very easily be, fake news. But let's take a look at it. Who here is a fan of 2001: A Space Odyssey? This is reminiscent of that. A DPS crew discovers mysterious monolith from air in remote Utah wilderness. Now, there's enough weirdness going on in Utah anyway, based on a lot of the research that I've done. And then we have this odd little monolith that shows up. And
in the middle of the southern Utah wilderness, it immediately caught the eye of state officers as they passed overhead.
Mysterious, it compelled them to land. But what on earth
tell you what,
is it?
I'm going to highlight that video so you get a good view of what it is that they're talking about here. Zoop. There we go. And here.
News specialist Andrew Adams is live tonight. Andrew?
Dave, at this point, it appears to be something of a mystery. I mean, these guys aren't exactly aimed to figure it all out. They're just state workers trying to do a job, but they definitely found something that appears to be out of this world.
Captain's log, stardate 11/18/2020. The crew of the Utah DPS helicopter traveled to southern Utah on a mission to count bighorn life forms with wildlife officers.
And he's like, whoa, 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 turn around, turn around. And I was like, what? And he's like, there's this thing back there. We got to go look at it.
The crew had spotted an object of unknown origin on the red surface.
Okay, the intrepid explorers go down to investigate the alien life form.
In the middle of the barren desert stood a mysterious metal monolith.
I would say it's probably between 10 and 12 feet high.
That's just wild.
We were kind of joking around that if one of us suddenly disappears, then I guess the rest of us make a run for it. So
Pilot Brett Hutchings says it didn't look like it was dropped there. It was firmly planted into the ground.
We're like thinking, okay, is this something like NASA stuck up there or something? You know, are they bouncing satellites off it or something?
It seemed less scientific and more artistic.
I'm assuming it is, you know, some new wave artist or something, you know, or somebody that just is a big 2001 Space Odyssey fan.
The similarity to the space movie was unmistakable, as was the bizarre effect it had on observers.
It just was kind of unusual and stuff.
The universe is filled with the unexplained, and this journey to southern Utah only raised more questions. As the crew headed home, they only wished they had the answers.
Yeah, I have to admit that's been about the strangest thing that I've come across out there in all the years of flying.
And that's what Hutchings saying. He sees all kinds of unusual things from the air. The crew asked us to be especially vague about where this was. Not a conspiracy. They're just worried about people going out to try to find it and getting stuck. Back to you guys.
Andrew Adams, appropriate story for you tonight.
All right. Well, you know, shades of 2001: A Space Odyssey and the monoliths that are out there in the desert. And actually, if you see the opening of the movie where they show it, it looks like it's in a very similar type setting. You know, and all the monkey type creatures that are around it and throwing things at it and beating on it and everything. So anyway, Utah Department of Public Safety helicopter was assisting Utah Division of Wildlife Resource officers counting bighorn sheep when the crew spotted something mysterious from above. The discovery was made Wednesday. One of the biologists is the one who spotted it, and we just happened to fly directly over the top of it, said pilot Brett Hutchings. He was like, whoa, 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 turn around, turn around. And I was like, what? And he's like, there's this thing back there. They've got to go look at it. The crew circled back and landed the helicopter to take a closer look. They didn't believe their eyes. Tucked in a red rock cove was a shiny metal monolith protruding from the ground. I'd say it's probably between 10 and 12 feet high, Hutchings said. We were kind of joking around that if one of us suddenly disappears, then the rest of us make a run for it. Hutchings said it didn't look like it was dropped into the ground from above. It was firmly planted there. We were like thinking this is something NASA stuck up there or something. Are they bouncing satellites off it or something? Hutchings questioned. That said, the crew decided it didn't appear that there was any scientific purpose to it. Hutchings said it looked as if it was man-made, perhaps more of an art form than any kind of alien life form. I'm assuming it's some new wave artist or something, or, you know, somebody that was a big 2001: A Space Odyssey fan, Hutchings said, referencing a scene in the movie. And here is kind of a brief opening to the scene of the movie. And as you can see, the setting was something similar to that, only this time the guys that found it weren't as hairy and flew in on a helicopter, I guess. So anyway, that's what it looked like in the scene of the movie. Because
Interesting.
What's that?
Interesting. Yeah, it looked like the monkeys were jumping around, you know, and then the helicopter pilots were jumping around, almost mimicking the monkeys.
It's a little on the odd side. You know, I'd like to know if the thing is solid. Is that thing solid metal or what?
Yeah, how heavy is it? That's the next question, right? And then when you first showed this, I thought you were putting us on, Thumper. Honestly, I didn't think it was real. I thought it was just like it didn't even appear real, even from the news broadcasters' point of view. You just look at it and you're like, oh wait, is this being a big joke put on? But then as you continue to go, I realized that no, they're serious.
You know, somebody put it out there for a reason, and you know, yeah, it's what the heck?
Yeah.
Because the monolith was in an area, the crew feared amateur adventurers might get stuck. They were intentionally vague about its location. The group left with pictures and videos, but few answers. Hutchings said he had seen many unusual things from the helicopter over the years, but never anything quite like this. That's been about the strangest thing I've come across out there in all my years of flying, Hutchings said. All right. So, again, you know, it's kind of an odd, you know, find out in the middle of the desert. And, yeah, so, yeah. Yeah, there's a little bit more in this part of the story here. It says, tucked in the Red Rock Grove was a shiny metal monolith protruding from the ground. I'd say it's between 10 and 12 feet high. We're kind of joking around. Okay. Yeah, we already put that part out there. So anyway, you know, another strange oddity in our world. And I'm sure it wouldn't be too hard to figure out how it got there. Somebody had to take it out there and plant it there. And you know, how is it you know, attached to the ground? You know, did they put some kind of a foundation underneath it and everything? And is it solid? If it's solid, that's a pretty heavy piece of metal to be taking out there without some coordinated effort, wouldn't you think?
Absolutely, I think so. Yeah. There's no coincidences there.
No, it just didn't fall out of the sky. So,
Well, and for helicopter pilots that were doing remote surveys, to find it, that's a little unusual. I mean, it's obviously in the desert, fairly not close by or anything, you know. So
I would have just seen it. Would have just seen that going by.
Right, that's what I'm saying. But they didn't when they mentioned it, they said, "Yeah, don't try to get out there because they didn't want to rescue anybody," which kind of makes you believe that it wasn't very close to any known town, and it's in the desert, and Utah can be a formidable place.
Yeah, it's definitely on the weird side of things, that's for sure. Yeah, oddness abounds in our world, right?
And for something to stand up like that, it has to be in the soil, a few feet anyway. So if it's 12 feet above, it's a good 4, 5, 6 feet below, which is a pretty big object.
Yeah, it's got to be planted in something. So
yeah, it's deep. It's quite deep, or it wouldn't stand up.
But it also makes me think that someone actually put it out there with a helicopter too. So kind of,
yeah, you would think. But if 12 feet high, at the dimensions that it is, I mean, think of that as a solid. If that's a solid piece of metal, okay, that thing's going to weigh. That thing is not going to be light. I mean, that thing's going to be heavy.
Even if it's not solid, even if it's hollow, right? You could make 1/2-inch aluminum and shine it up and make it look like a solid piece, right? And then it would be lighter. But even 1/2-inch aluminum at 15 feet total, that big of a box would be quite heavy.
Oh yeah,
it would be an alloy though. It would be much lighter. It would be an alloy, something, a composite. That's what I would expect something like that to be. It won't just be steel.
Yeah, that's why I said aluminum. Yeah.
Who knows?
Sorry, one of the dogs is being goofy over here.
So I did want to mention something else about trend setting. I wished everyone on 11/11/2020, I wished them all a happy Reverberation Day. So that's my new holiday, and everyone else is welcome to celebrate every year from henceforward. The day the earth rang like a bell, 11/11/18, which it was a two-year delta this year. So happy Reverberation Day. I'm still celebrating. I hope all of you are.
Okay.
Always.
Now, the main document I wanted to dive into tonight is, don't everybody go, because this is really fascinating, and it ties into stuff that William Cooper was doing. It is 31 questions and answers about the Internal Revenue Service, the IRS. All right. And this is one of my favorite subjects to pick on because these people have been ripping us off for years. And I'm going to explain a couple of things that kind of ties in that the aspect of being ripped off by a very long-running fraud, in my as I like to call it. And the dog sitting here going, he wants attention. Anyway, let me see if I can get this to pull up on the reader here. Okay, there we go. So it should be a lot easier for you guys to see. 31 questions and answers about the Internal Revenue Service. Paul Andrew Mitchell, a Bachelor of Arts, master's degree, citizen of Washington State, federal witness, private attorney, general author, and webmaster of the Supreme Law Library. And you can find this information at www.supremelaw.org. And number one, is the Internal Revenue Service, IRS, an organization within the U.S. Department of the Treasury? Answer: No, the IRS is not an organization within the United States Department of the Treasury. The U.S. Department of the Treasury was organized by statutes, now codified in Title 31 of the United States Code, abbreviated 31 USC. The only mention of IRS anywhere in 31 USC is 301 to 315 is an authorization for the president to appoint an assistant general counsel in the U.S. Department of Treasury to be chief counsel for the IRS. And you can see it here at 31 USC 301 F2. At footnote 23, in the case of Chrysler Corporation versus Brown, 44-1 U.S. 281, 1979, the U.S. Supreme Court admitted that no organic act for the IRS code could be found after they searched for such an act all the way back to the Civil War, which ended in the year 1865 AD. The guarantee clause in the U.S. Constitution guarantees the rule of law to all Americans. We are to be governed by law, not by arbitrary bureaucrats. See Article 4, Section 4. Since there was no organic act creating it, IRS is not a lawful organization. How many of you folks, have you heard this? So I know some of you maybe have listened to me before and heard this. What about you, Paul or Vector? Or are you very much up on the IRS?
IRS is not a part of the United States government necessarily. It is a private institution, as is the Federal Reserve, and they're not our friends. That's what I can tell you about the IRS.
Mm-hmm.
They're there to take your money. They're there to control. They don't have a mandate. Income tax is illegal under the Constitution. We're all enslaved from the Federal Reserve System that came in 1913.
Yeah.
So that's what I think about the IRS.
This kind of tracks how they managed to achieve the position that they have. And
there was a really smart fellow who decided to take them to court about the taxes, and he basically proved to the government, but the government basically kicked his case out, even though he proved that it was never ratified. So because there was, I think, 12 or 13 states, something like that. That
was the 16th Amendment, the 17th Amendment, which were where we ended up with the argument that and it's really funny because I was listening to a fellow the other day on the internet, and he did this back in I think 2007, but he was saying how and he's a tax guy. I've yet to find a tax guy that won't sit there and defend the idea of an IRS. And it really kind of irks me when you see how they brought this thing in and they slipped it in kind of like they poison our food. Oh, this is a vitamin, it's good for you, here, keep taking it. Oh, you have this problem? Oh, gee, we don't have a clue as to why that is.
All the vitamins that they put into the food are man-made ones that are crap. They're not the good ones that you're supposed to be eating. Just PS everyone, so you know.
Delicious, Paul. Delicious.
Wait a minute. We're not gonna get off on. We're not gonna go four-wheeling here. We're gonna stay on this.
No.
Not get into food and vitamins. Okay, I'm just using.
No, I just had to put that out there because it's important. And then on top of it, you're smiling hard.
Now, come on! Don't get off on the beat.
No, I'm not getting off. I'm trying to go back to what I was saying when you cut me off. I'm trying to say the fact that there was 3 states of the 12 to 13 states that did not actually even have they couldn't find the paperwork for it. And then there was 10 or 11 states that didn't have the proper signatures. So they had like 60% of the signatures out of 75% of the signatures that were required. So actually the guy had a good case against the U.S. government for stating the fact that it wasn't ratified because the three of the paperworks were never turned in, and the other 6 were fraudulent, the other 9 were fraudulent.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I wanted to say.
Okay, so getting back into the document here, the act for the IRS, that no organic act for the IRS could be found after they searched for such an act all the way back to the Civil War. Okay, so they see, since there is no organic act creating it, IRS is not a lawful organization. Number 2, if not an organization within U.S. Department of the Treasury, then what exactly is the IRS? The answer is the IRS appears to be a collection agency working for foreign banks and operating out of Puerto Rico under color of the Federal Alcohol Administration, the FAA. But the FAA was promptly declared unconstitutional inside the 50 states by the U.S. Supreme Court in the case of U.S. versus Constantine, 296 U.S. 287, 1935, because prohibition had already been repealed. Okay, so it was a collection agency working for foreign banks operating out of Puerto Rico. Now, keep Puerto Rico in mind. It's come up before. And I found in this document a little more explanation. Think Rudy Giuliani when you think of Rico, okay, and Puerto Rico, okay? In 1998, the United States Court of Appeals for the First Circuit identified a second Secretary of the Treasury. Second? As a man by the name of Manuel Diaz Saldaña. See the definitions of secretary and secretary or his delegate at 27 CFR 26.11, formerly 27 CFR 250.11. And the published decision in Used Tire International Incorporated versus Manuel Diaz Saldaña. Court docket number 97-2348, September 11th, 1998. September 11th. That's kind of, is that a coincidence? Maybe, maybe not. Both definitions mention Puerto Rico. When all the evidence is examined objectively, IRS appears to be a money laundering extortion racket and conspiracy to engage in a pattern of racketeering activity in violation of 18 U.S.C. 1951 and 1961. RICO, think Puerto Rico, Racketeer, Influenced, and Corrupt Organizations Act. In other words, it is an organized crime syndicate operating under false and fraudulent pretenses. See also the Sherman Act and the Lanham Act. And each one of these are links to some other documents that we'll be looking at here at some point. By what legal authority, if any, has the IRS established offices inside the 50 states of the Union? Okay, because what you're going to see here is the link to Puerto Rico, and the reason for Puerto Rico coming up in this discussion tonight is quite important in your understanding of the IRS and its relationship to the United States federal government and how they were able to slip it into your life as a resident of one of the 50 United States that are members of the Union, not territories of. Okay. Their presence within the 50 states appears to stem from certain agreements on coordination of tax administration, ACTA, which officials in those states have consummated with the Commissioner of Internal Revenue. A template for ACTA agreements can be found at the IRS Internet website and in the Supreme Law Library on the Internet. However, these ACTA agreements are demonstrably fraudulent. For example, by expressly defining IRS as a lawful bureau within the U.S. Department of the Treasury. See answer to question 1 above. Moreover, those ACTA agreements also appear to violate state laws requiring competitive bidding before such a service contract can be awarded by a state government by any subcontractor. Okay, now that's some very important verbiage right there, because a service contract, they've been these are private corporations. Okay, as we've talked about numerous times on Patriot Soapbox, and other people have talked about it. These are private corporations that have been basically hired by whom, for what, and how did you end up sending, your hard-earned money to these people? And for what reason, and where did that money go? Are some of the questions that you've been summarily lied to for years about the whole thing, and it's been quite the fraud, to be quite honest. Paul, Vector, any comments on this so far?
Treason. The Americas have been sold out. These people know they can't have their New World Order unless they destroy the United States. And this is why Trump says America first, because he knows that if America can't be saved, then the rest of the world is toast. And we are practically anyway now. So when it comes to helping other people, let's give the analogy of being on a plane. You put the oxygen mask on yourself first, and then you help other people.
Right.
And this is the same thing with the United States. When the United States is free, we can all be free. So we will all fight and die in the service of the United States. We will all be slaves. This is what it's come down to.
How do you put the mask on the oxygen mask on others if you have a mask on already?
I'm making a point. You put the mask on yourself so that you don't lose oxygen, and then you put the mask on your children or other people in the cabin that you're responsible for. So you can't expect them.
I'm being facetious, Vector. I'm talking about the crazy people's masks.
No, well, yeah, exactly.
That's my point. It slows your whole process.
COVID.
It would slow your whole process down, which is a danger. And now you've become a danger to yourself and others on a plane because you're wearing a piece of shit on your face.
Right. You will wear your mask. You will comply and do as you're told. In Australia, you will not get on an international flight and leave the country or come into the country on the national carrier on Qantas. You will wear your mask.
Oh, yeah.
All the staff are required to wear their masks, and they're required to be vaccinated, and you will require, Thumper, your vaccine certificate, or you will not be able to travel internationally.
Can you bring that back around to what we're talking about here tonight?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'd like to because the taxes is an interesting point. One, they, like I said, they weren't ratified, but two, the taxes were originally brought in for war, and they said, oh well, this is what you'll have to do to pay for the war. And then they decided, oh well, there's no more war, so we'll just keep creating false wars to keep the taxes coming in. So and then on top of that, they were supposed to say, oh, after the war, the taxes will cease. But on top of that, they were intended only for large corporations and international corporations, not for every individual person. So
that's somewhat what we're gonna get to here in a little bit.
Yeah, they've taken leeway, and you give them an inch and they take a mile, and this is where we are with the masks. We've given an inch, and so what's going to happen next?
When they talk about dumbing down the public and dumbing down the educational system, you know, if you can keep them in the dark long enough to the point where, you know, the base, the knowledge base, they want to dry it up. They want to rewrite the history. They want to bury certain parts of history because it shows their corruption and their collusion. And you'll see how they have basically used that over the years, ever since we, you know, by using the financial systems and, you know, buying everybody off. Okay. So, moreover, those ACTA agreements also appear to violate state laws requiring competitive bidding, you know, awarded by, you know, a service contract can be awarded by a state government to any subcontract. There's no evidence to indicate that ACTA agreements were reached after competitive bidding process. On the contrary, the IRS is adamant about maintaining a monopoly syndicate. Can IRS legally show Department of the Treasury on their outgoing mail is a question. Answer is no. It is obvious that such deceptive nomenclature is intended to convey the false impression that IRS is a lawful bureau or department within the U.S. Department of the Treasury. Federal laws prohibit the use of United States mail for fraudulent purposes. Every piece of U.S. mail sent from IRS with Department of the Treasury in the return address is one count of mail fraud. Also see 31 USC 333. Lots of numbers for here you guys to write down and play with here, by the way. Does the U.S. Department of Justice have power of attorney to represent the IRS in federal court? Answer is no. Although the U.S. Department of Justice, the DOJ, does have power of attorney to represent federal agencies before federal courts, the IRS is not an agency, as that term is legally defined in the Freedom of Information Act or in the Administrative Procedures Act either. The governments of all federal territories are expressly excluded from the definition of federal agency by Act of Congress. See USC 5511C. And just to kind of prove a point here, agency, for the purpose of this subchapter. Agency means each authority of the government of the United States, whether or not it is within or subject to review by another agency, but does not include the Congress, the courts of the United States, the governments of the territories or possessions of the United States, the government of District of Columbia, or except as to requirements in Section 552 of this title. Agencies composed of representatives of the parties or representatives of organizations of the parties to the disputes determined by them. Okay? So, and then party includes a person or agency named or admitted by a party or properly seeking and entitled as of right to be admitted as a party in an agency proceeding, or a person or agency admitted by an agency as a party for limited purposes. So they write this. This is all just a bunch of word gobbledygook. Because see, as in insurance contracts, if I want to write the word black in a document, and if I write in the definitions, the term black is meant to represent what people commonly know as the color purple. All right. It's perfectly legal for me to do that. And I don't have to explain it every time I write the word black, because your responsibility is supposed to go into the definitions and see what definitions I have given to certain phrases or words within my document. Perfectly legal. So every time I say the word, I write the word black, I'm actually referencing the word purple. All right. Totally fine. as long as it's in the definitions. All right. Since IRS is domiciled in Puerto Rico, in parentheses with a question mark, it is thereby excluded from the definition of federal agencies, which can be represented by the DOJ. The IRS chief counsel appointed by the president under authority of 31 U.S.C. 301 can appear or appoint a delegate to appear in federal court on behalf of IRS and IRS employees. Again, see the answer to question 1 above. As far as powers of attorney are concerned, the chain of command begins with Congress, flows to the president, and then to the IRS chief counsel, and not to the U.S. Department of Justice. Were the so-called 14th and 16th Amendments properly ratified? Answer is, and this is in where you were going, Paul, no, neither was properly ratified. In the case of People versus Boxer, December 1992, docket number #S-030016, U.S. Senator Barbara Boxer fell totally silent in the face of an application to the California Supreme Court by the people of California for an order compelling Senator Boxer to witness the material evidence against the so-called 16th Amendment. That so-called amendment, in quotes, allegedly authorized federal income taxation, even though it contains no provision expressly repealing 2 constitutional clauses mandating that direct taxes must be apportioned. Okay, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, the Ninth Circuit, we know how honest they are, and the U.S. Supreme Court have both ruled that repeals by implication are not favored. See Crawford Fitting Company et al. Versus J.T. Gibbons Incorporated, 482 U.S. 437 442, 1987. The material evidence in question was summarized in affidavits that were properly executed and filed in that case. Boxer fell totally silent, thus rendering those affidavits the, in quote, truth of the case, close quote. The so-called 16th Amendment has now been correctly identified as a major fraud upon the American people and the United States. Major fraud against the United States is a serious federal offense. See 18 U.S.C. 1031. Similarly, the so-called 14th Amendment was never properly ratified either. In the case of DeWitt versus Turner, 439 P2, P2D 266270, 1968, the Utah Supreme Court, oh, we're back in Utah already, we're monoliths up here in the desert, recited numerous historical facts proving beyond any shadow of a doubt that the so-called 14th Amendment was likewise a major fraud upon the American people. Those facts, in many cases, were acts of the several state legislatures voting for or against that proposal to amend the Constitution. The Supreme Law Library has a collection of references detailing this major fraud. The U.S. Constitution requires that constitutional amendments be ratified by 3/4 of the several states. As such, their acts are governed by the full faith and credit clause of the United States Constitution. See Article 4, Section 1. Judging by the sheer amount of litigation, its various sections have generated, particularly Section 1, the so-called 14th Amendment, is one of the worst pieces of legislation ever written in American history. The phrase, subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, in quotes, is properly understood to mean, in quote, subject to the municipal jurisdiction of Congress. All right, and that's an important, the municipal jurisdiction of Congress. When we talk about municipal, as opposed to municipal implies, what, you know, if you folks have listened to Brett Winters, you know, he talks about the law of the city, and then you have the law of man. Well, municipal is another expression of the law of the city, right? And so subject to the municipal, the law of the city jurisdiction of Congress. For this reason alone, the congressional resolution proposing the so-called 14th Amendment is provably vague and therefore unconstitutional. See 14 Stat 358, 359, Joint Resolution 48, June 16th, 1866. Where are the statutes that create a specific liability for federal income taxes? Anybody have any ideas on that? The statute that create a specific liability for federal income taxes, meaning an obligation, anybody? Where'd Vector go?
Not I don't for you on this one. And no, he suggested he had to go. He had some personal things he had to take care of. So he's away for now.
Oh, okay. Well, hopefully he can swing back. So the the answer to this is Section 1 of the Internal Revenue Code, IRC, contains no provisions creating a specific liability for taxes imposed by Subtitle A. Well, what is one of the things that is spelled out in our Constitution? They have the right to collect taxes for a specific purpose, right, Paul?
I'm laughing. No, no, not right. It's wrong.
Aside from the statutes, which apply only to federal government employees, pursuant to the Public Salary Tax Act, the only other statutes that create a specific liability for federal income taxes are those itemized in the definition of withholding agent, in quotes, at IRC section 7701, alpha 16. For example, see IRC section 1461, a separate liability statute for employment taxes imposed by Subtitle C is found at IRC section 4303. A worker authorizes a payroll officer to withhold taxes, typically by completing Form W-4. The payroll officer then becomes a withholding agent who is legally and specifically liable for payment of all taxes withheld from the worker's paycheck until such time as those taxes are paid in full into the Treasury of the United States. The withholding agent is the only party who is legally liable for those taxes, not the worker. See IRC section 7809, Treasury of the United States. So what they're saying there is withholding agent. Okay. It takes a withholding agent. And if you fill out the form and allow someone to be your withholding agent, that agent is then responsible for transmitting those monies, those funds, now in your name, but they get in trouble if they withhold it from your check and don't send it to the IRS. They are legally, bound and have the requirement as a withholding agent. Okay. Now, are you your withholding agent? Paul, are you your withholding agent?
I'm not sure. Am I? I personally don't.
You don't authorize that person at the business where you work, your employer, your boss. If you tell them to not take that money out of your paycheck, and you're not asking them to withhold any money, then do they have any obligation to send anything?
I plead the fifth. Sorry.
Well, they don't. Okay. Once that money has been taken out of your paycheck in the name of as the withholding agent, then that money must be transmitted to the IRS, or else they come after the employer for withholding those funds. And you have directed that person or that company, who's acting as the withholding agent, then then they're the ones liable. Okay. Until such time as those taxes are paid in full into the Treasury, the withholding agent is the only party who is legally liable for those taxes, not the worker. Okay. If the worker opts instead to complete a withholding exemption certificate, so opts to instead complete a withholding exemption certificate consistent with IRC section 3402, the payroll officer is not thereby authorized to withhold any federal income taxes. In this latter situation, there is absolutely no liability for the worker or for the payroll officer. In other words, there is no liability period, specifically because there is no withholding agent. Can a federal regulation create a specific liability when no specific liability is created by the corresponding statute? What are they saying there? Can a federal regulation create a specific liability when no specific liability is created by the corresponding statute?
And by the way, when you ask someone for a 3402, as an employee, you asking your employer, they really hate that. They really, not that you can't do it. They just, for some reason, it really strikes them in the heart like a dagger. And so,
why do you think it is?
Oh, I think it's control. They want to control you. You're considered an indentured servant. So if you're an indentured servant, why should you be asking to unindenture yourself? And so, in any form. So and then it's not a typical thing they do. So because it's atypical, they decide that you're being a pain in the ass instead of actually doing what they're supposed to for you.
Well, actually, what it really does mean, Paul, is that and being an employer, you understand your responsibility as the withholding agent, and you certainly don't want to get into any trouble with the IRS for not because the implication is, and I know this from being in business and having several employees and actually getting visited because of a problem that I had with my bookkeeper who was being a criminal, and having an IRS guy come to my office one day and said, your responsibilities as a withholding agent, basically what he was saying, okay, given what we're talking about here tonight, you have not been completing your responsibilities as a withholding agent, and we want the money. I'm going, we paid the money. No, you didn't. Yes, we did. No, you didn't. Yes, we did. I always check on that. My bookkeeper says, yes, we did it. Well, we got to checking and she wasn't. She was lifting the money. Anyway, long story short, she ended up being fired. We ended up paying about $14,000 back to the IRS that just suddenly disappeared because of a bookkeeper with sticky fingers. It could have been a lot worse. Could have been a lot more money had they not come. And they were actually very polite about it. And we got it all cleared up. I had to write a big check to them out of my pocket and got it all cleared up, got everything back together again. And then I hired a CPA to monitor the books from then on out.
So you fired her. Did she get in trouble legally at some point?
Well, we had to do a forensic audit, which if I had to pay for that forensic audit, would have been about $25,000. However, Gonzaga College, in their legal accounting department, where they Gonzaga is known as a pretty prestigious law school, but part of their master's course at Gonzaga is they have to, as part of the master's course, do a forensic audit. And so I was put in touch with the professor that ran that course. And what they do is they offer to do forensic audits as part of the classroom, part of their classwork. And, we're not we weren't a huge business, not really too complicated, but it was a perfect example of a forensic audit. And in order to have a case, I needed to have this forensic audit done. The prosecutor won't take the case unless there's a forensic audit. Now, if I wanted to, spend, 1.5 times what this person cost me out of my own pocket to do a forensic audit, I could have paid $25,000 to have somebody do one. Or I could, utilize Gonzaga, who does it for free as part of the course, which we did, and we got the forensic audit done. But as a result, we did file charges or a complaint with the police department for, embezzlement and what have you. But because we did not have actual proof, like a video of this person taking the money out of the drawer and putting it in her purse and walking out with it, and she left no paper trail as far as checks and things like that. She basically stole it all in cash out of the cash drawer, and so there was no real paper trail. All right. So as a result, the prosecutor decided not to prosecute. But I've been called a couple of times by people saying, this person is applying for a job, and I says, well, lock your cash drawer. you can't really say anything, but you can say, well, just make sure your cash is locked up good and tight, and that usually solves the problem. Or just ask them, do you keep your cash locked up good and tight? Video cameras and stuff. I'm just asking. I mean, it's just you might, if you don't, you might consider that. They stop asking questions after that. You there, Paul?
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Sounds like that person's probably done it before and knew how to get around the whole the issue of leaving a trail too. That's insane.
When you talk to the police department, and when you make a claim like this, when you talk to the police department, they will tell you they have investigated claims of the same bookkeepers at different businesses doing the same thing over and over because they do not get prosecuted, and because of the laws regarding things that you can and can't say about a former employee, they just move down the road and they don't get caught, they don't get prosecuted because the prosecutors only take cases that they're pretty darn sure that they can win. It doesn't do any good. Prosecutors are it's like it's like a pitcher. Okay. Your record as a pitcher is based solely on statistics. Okay. Now you might have, the killer, that's why maybe you're a closer instead of a starter. Okay. You've got a mean ass arm. You've got a couple of just killer pitches, but you can't typically, you can't go, 5 or 6 innings. So they bring you in at the end of the game as a closer, and you might have a couple of different closers, depending on who's coming up, who's in the lineup and who may be coming up to bat. Depending on which closer you want to use. And same thing with these prosecuting attorneys are really good at picking cases that they know they can win. That gives them a really great record. But the real question is how many cases did they not take, and what cases did they not take? Because it's great if you have a slam dunk record, but if they were slam dunk cases, then what good is the record? And was justice actually done? Were they actually doing the work of the people, or were they just you've got a major league pitcher out there, but he'll only pitch to the little league team. It's basically what you got. So an act of Congress fails to create a specific liability for any tax imposed by that act, then there is no liability for that tax. Executive agencies have no authority to cure any such omission by using regulations to create a liability. An administrative agency may not create a criminal offense or any liability not sanctioned by the lawmaking authority, especially a liability for a tax or inspection fee. See Commissioner of the Internal Revenue versus Acker. So that case seemed to have come up and was adjudicated in that. So, and what you find out that, you were mentioning that you knew somebody that, or was it you? Maybe it was somebody else, but, when people go to court against the IRS, you know what usually happens if they win?
Yeah, then they cover it all up.
Yeah. They basically they seal the records. They do a number of different things because they don't want the general population out there to know that people have actually won numerous cases against the IRS. But it's not mainstream news. Now, why is that?
Sounds a bit like the vaccine court to me.
Well, it also appears to also be, more of the mockingbird media press being disallowed from really telling the American people what the truth is.
Certain stories not allowed to be covered.
Oh, absolutely. Okay.
So, yeah, what I was mentioning was actually that not where you read before. It was, I can't remember the name of the guy, but you did read his name of the case 10 paragraphs back or whatever it was. But anyway, you don't need to go over it.
Okay. So the what you're getting into here is first off, when you're talking an administrative agency may not create a criminal offense or any liability not sanctioned by the lawmaking authority. Okay, the lawmaking authority in this country is our Congress, right?
Yes.
Okay. And so what do we see, when Congress, like the ACA,
is this a question?
Yeah, I'm trying to have a conversation here. Let's converse back and forth on this.
I know, but I think I this is not like my forte, and I'm really trying.
Okay.
But when it starts coming up to these case numbers and brackets of sections of who's who involved in all the government angles of the names of each organization, I just shut off.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. But you remember who so famously stood up and said, well, we have to pass it to find out what's in it. You know that one, right?
I'm shooting blank here.
Nancy and the Affordable Care Act.
Sorry.
Okay. You remember that though? Then now
That's because most of the time I don't pay attention to any of what they.
Well, I typically don't.
Yeah, a little, but most of the time I don't pay attention to any of those people.
I'm using that as an example because the example is that Congress they get these laws like the Patriot Act and these other documents that are standing by, ready to go when the next false flag drops. All right, as in the Affordable Care Act, they wrote that up. Romney, pushed that into Massachusetts, and then they were going to try to push it here into Washington State. They even, rigged an election. No, they wouldn't do that. In order to get our insurance commissioner, the right insurance commissioner, into office, right at the same time as the Clintons were taking over the White House. And they came up with this wonderful program called Hillary Care. You remember that, Paul?
Minorly, yes.
Well, I do, because it came into Washington State here. They were going to try to make Washington State, and it was, again, at the same time Romney was doing Romney Care in Massachusetts, which was a, one of these, it was a test run on the Affordable Care Act. All right. And Massachusetts and Washington State were the two targets. Well, we managed to take a lot of the meat out of what was going here on Washington. We did not get Hillary Care, but in the process, in the setup to it, what they did do was they started regulating a whole bunch of stuff here in the state of Washington that would directly impact the insurance companies who were providing medical insurance here in the state of Washington. And as a result, what happened was it had the effect of pushing the insurance companies out of the state. A lot of insurance companies, no, we're not going to put up with that crap. No, we're out of here. Which gave them license to, cancel their policies and not offer any replacements, thereby leaving the residents of Washington State kind of out there on a limb going, well, what are we going to do for medical insurance? Well, Hillary Care was going to come to the rescue. All right. We ended up without Hillary Care, but we ended up with a messed up health insurance situation here in the state of Washington. And eventually some companies came back in, but it was never the same. And our insurance premiums and things like that here in Washington State have gotten absolutely ridiculous. So
I'd like to give you a little bit of 40,000 feet overview on this from my quadrant.
Please.
If you look at Congress and you say, hey, these are lawmaking people, they actually make laws, they write them, they sit in a big quarry of people, and they just try to decide how to control and contrive the masses and how to squeeze them for the next penny or the next dollar. That's the same thing that what do you call it? Your bookkeepers do. That's what they like, these accountants. So I'm not a fan of accountants. So if you look at have you ever seen some like contracts for real estate where they put covenants in? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, very familiar.
Okay, so covenant means something that they put on in the contract that says you can't do this or can't do that, or you're not allowed to do this or you have to do this, right? For instance,
we ran into that when a buddy and I went together over in Hawaii, and we bought a townhome. Okay.
Oh yeah, Hawaii's going to be bad. It's like Colorado. It's one of those states that's really messed up for all this stuff. So I look at laws like covenant. So, I'm looking at trying to purchase some property, and the real estate guy says, "Oh, there's no covenants on the property." So I get there and there's like 35 of them. I'm like, how's that no covenants? So you're telling me what I have to do, how I have to do it, and it's all what you guys say, not what I want.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at it. I said, "Yeah, the area is nice. It's clean. It's kept up. There's no riffraff. There's no crap laying around people's yards and stuff. That's all great. But I can do that without being told that I have to do it your way. I can do it my way." And then on top of it, I look at the covenants as laws. How do we control and contrive everyone else around us and squeeze them and make money off of him and force him into situations that he's due us enslavement again? So this is for me, when you mention all this stuff tying back into all these codes and all this other stuff, I really could give a rat's ass about it all, Thumper, in actuality, because I tend not to want to live in that environment, and I refuse to in a lot of senses.
I absolutely agree with you. That's why I tend to brush over those things. But when the importance of those things, when you're presenting information like this, it is really good to have that reference. Now, I've dove through this subject numerous times over the past 15 years. Okay. And when somebody goes, well, what about this? If you have those references available, you can go in and you can dig and dive down on those, and each one of them is its little anteroom off of the rabbit hole. And, but it provides the backup proof. You can make a lot of claims, but if you have the reference points at which to prove your point, and that's why, when they do put these kinds of things in the documents there, I'm sure you'll agree, Paul, that, having those reference points in order to make the case is extremely helpful in, saying, look, I'm not a tin hatter here. Here's the documentation, proof's in the pudding. I
look,
I'm totally with you there as far as I hate, all of that shit because, I really don't, but, over time I have periodically, clicked that link and gone there and read it and because if you want to speak with authority, you have to understand that you have something to back you up that can prove your point. Is, I guess, where I'm.
Well, seriously, I think part of our system is a waste, and I don't see the system that we have as a perfect system. And having a bunch of nitwits sit there, yes, I did call them nitwits, who are all cronies for some handouts from somebody else, all salivating at the bit to try and get money from whatever corporation they can squeeze it from. I look at it like, well, some of us aren't interested in any of this stuff. What if those people that are interested in it actually didn't form a Congress, but formed themselves and just produced these laws, and if we didn't like them, we just don't vote them in. Like referendum wise, we don't need specific people telling us that they have to have this particular law. This is where a lot of the problem comes in with the system.
Boy, I tell you what, I am so on board with what you're saying. I absolutely am.
Yeah, why can't you write a law? You're intelligent, man. Why can't you write the law? You're smart enough. If you think something's good, and if everyone else agrees with it, then let's do it. Let's do that local referendum. You like it, then live in a state or a county that has what your group of people that have the same thought processes are. If not, then I don't see the need for the rest of it, honestly.
I absolutely agree with you. When all of this started, I would not have had a problem if President Trump had ordered up 200,000 dumpsters and had them stationed all over DC and said, I want every flippin' regulation. I want every, let's everything but the Constitution effective up to the let's just go up to the 13th Amendment. After that, we're going to throw away the rest of this crap and start over. The rest of it goes in the dustbin of history and gets forgot because, it was at that point things did start going sideways. However, imagine the cognitive dissonance that would have caused. Yeah. So it's sickening. It's obnoxious. I tell you, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, well, it's a solution. We're in an age of non-solution, non-fucking logical people, and
it's the commission to decide if you're going to have a commission, to decide if you're going to have a commission, to decide if you're going to have a committee that decides that you're going to have a committee to have a committee to have a committee. I mean, it's this layered bullshit that we've got. All right.
To decide what Joe is going to do with his life, not what the high corporations are, because they're all exempt anyway. So we're really just talking about, actually the low guy and the high guy are pretty exempt because they know the low guy has no money. They can't squeeze any more turnip out of him. And then the middle guy is the one that gets stung, the one that has more than 10 employees, between 10 and 100 employees, because he's got enough money for them to come after, and it always ends up being him. And so, of course, the people at the top like it because it keeps everyone in their little box that you love.
The bottom line here is there's only two ways that President Trump could have accomplished what he's accomplishing now. One would be to just burn it down and rebuild. Now, that's what that was the plan that the globalists were actually going to do. They were going to burn the whole thing down, wipe out our history, basically, do like they did in Alexandria and burn the library, only after saving and hiding away all of the real documents and treasures that were there at Alexandria, and then come out and rewrite history that suits their agenda and their modus operandi, thereby setting into history at that point all of the rules and laws that support what they want to do. All right. Now, on the other hand, and basically, if you look at it, when they burnt the raping, pillaging, and plundering of Alexandria, and the resultant loss in historical documents and history and all of that was lost at that point in time is very instrumental into where we are at today. So how do you circumvent that? Now, you can't teach everybody everything, right? What you know of sacred geometry, what you know of the Bible, what I know of this kind of stuff, because it has intrigued me to some degree, because I've always felt that income taxes were illegal. I've always heard that they were illegal. I've always heard that they were voluntary. Well, if they're voluntary, how do you unvolunteer? Or when did I volunteer? As a matter of fact, at what point did I actually say, okay, yeah, I volunteer to be taxed like an idiot?
Yeah. You still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Yeah. I see that.
I don't know when you're going to jump in, so I stop and just give you an opportunity.
Okay.
I'm sure comments are building up, and I'd like to have the comment.
My theory is that I might have said it before, that we could actually do something different. We have a blockchain. Everyone could be assigned blockchain as a voting frequency, and you have your encrypted blockchain channels so that you don't need to worry about security as much. And on that note, we have millions of people who just will like to make laws. We have millions of people who will like to vote for them. So I don't see why we need a Congress. Just get rid of it. It's antiquated. It's old. It's not even relevant anymore. I know people are going to hate me for saying this, but yes, it's part of the Republic. Oh my God, yes. Wow, it's part of the Republic. But is it really helping us or harming us? Is it logical or illogical? Let's go with stuff that actually. I mean, this is the age of technology. Why don't we use it for the better of humankind instead of I'm sure there's problems that we'd have to sort out to make it all legit and so that. But honestly, I think the system needs a big revamp. I'm sorry, but I hate to say that. I'm a fan of America and what it's done, but at some point, I think if it's hijacked to the point where we can't do anything with it, then it's we're obligated to restore it in a way that works for us, and that's in our founders' words.
Mm-hmm. Ruby Jack, I'm not sure what you're trying to do out there, but there is no new Q, by the way. So I do keep an eye on that. So, well, and Ricky says this is one of my most hated, unfavorite, subjects. One of my least favorite subjects, Ricky, out there. It is because it's full of numbers and court cases and things like that. But I'm kind of setting a foundation here for another document that I'm going to go into. And Ricky, how do you feel about history then? Because history. If you don't know where you've been, how do you know where you're going? If you can't learn something from history, why do you think they want to make history disappear? Cancel culture, in other words. That's, they want to cancel out history because in the history is the proof of the crimes. All right. So if you're not interested in, finding out what history has to teach you, then how are you going to move forward? You want to just make all the same mistakes again? Because they'd be happy to do that for you. They'd be happy to set that up for you in a heartbeat because, they're going to give you their history, their reasons for it, and they're going to have it all worked out, and you're going to end right back, right here, right where we are right now, but maybe without a President Trump to save their asses at the time. Okay? Or a Q team or whatever it is, Jesus's return that's inspiring all of this, whatever it is. And it's long, it's tedious. I mean, gosh almighty, we're coming up on 4 years that we have been earnestly diving into all of this stuff. 4 years. Do you realize, it was Caleb one day. What do you think, Paul, what do you think the value of all of the information that we have exposed ourselves to at Patriot Soapbox in the last 3 years for Patriot Soapbox, but many of us have spent years diving down into this stuff. So let's just talk about the information that has been offered here at Patriot Soapbox on the 24 hours, 7 days a week for almost 3 years now.
Priceless. At 40,000 feet.
Do you think that some kind of a degree would be appropriate? If you were to have spent this much, if I were to have spent this much time in college classes learning all of this stuff, listening to it, what kind of a degree do you think that would equate to?
Well, if you're adding in the stuff that we researched on our own before we came to this platform with each other. I probably have a doctorate in nutrition right now. I don't know about the other fields, but yeah, I would reckon other people have the same in different fields of interest along the lines that some people are really into the vaccine thing. Some people really know all that stuff hand in hand over fist, and then there's other people that you might be more interested in the business aspect of things, which is here. You might have a legal degree in this, and some sort of there might be some people here that are into constitutional law and legality of things, and they would have a pretty interesting doctorate degree and things too. So there you go. We're all doctors.
Oh, taxes that you dislike. Yeah, likewise. And the only way that we really can make that case, I'm just reading Ricky's latest post there in the YouTube chat, is to kind of understand and direct people to if they're so inclined. I mean, a lot of the people, you're going to tell them, income taxes are unconstitutional. No, they're constitutional. It's been in court cases. It says, well, the only court cases that they will reference are the ones that they won. I do know how many they have lost. And if you could express to them how many cases that have actually been lost to the IRS or lost by the IRS to the petitioners, it tells a completely different story. It just is. If you are going to go after the IRS, you have to understand your position and their position and argue completely outside of what, Deborah W., what we've learned here is absolutely, it is priceless. It is absolutely priceless. If nothing else, you have a degree in political science. History and political science, or political history and political science, whatever. But there's so much other stuff. I mean, what you've learned about, wave propagation. If you've listened to TMC's shows or my shows, we've talked about those things. If you want to learn about, any number of things, I mean, it's incredible. What we've basically been doing here is making the case for why our system needs to be changed, because the system that we're in is designed to make a slave out of you. And, the whole idea of education is to enlighten you so that you know not to become a slave. All right? That you are free to move about and enjoy your freedom, and that freedom comes with the idea of creating. That's one reason why everything that we deal with is learning how to create within the boundaries and the rules and the morals and the ethics of God's laws. And his laws are true because you can, there's one thing you cannot argue with, and that is 1 + 1 = 2, and so on and so forth. All right. That is something, if I have one of these and one of these, then I got two of, some things. That is, it's, okay. got a schmuck out here in D-Live, thinks he's cute. Anyway, I'll leave it to, him to figure out who it is. Let's see. Anyway, anything to add to that there, Paul?
Not currently.
Okay. The federal regulations create an income tax liability for what specific classes of people? Answer. The regulations at 26 CFR 1.1 through 1 attempted to create a specific liability for all citizens of the United States. and all residents of the United States. However, those regulations correspond to Internal Revenue Code Section 1, which does not create a specific liability for taxes imposed by Subtitle A. Therefore, these regulations are overly broad, an overly broad extension of the underlying statutory authority. Now, when you get to talking about statutory authority, can your sheriff's office walk into your private business and tell you to put a mask on? Do they have statutory authority to do that? A lot of you probably saw that video that I played, and then Salty played. Let's see, I played it yesterday, and then Salty played it again last night of the sheriff's department showing up with a health official into a bar in Upper New York, Buffalo, New York, I think it was, and was trying to tell them that they had to wear masks. And they basically said, "What's your authority here? This is private property. By what authority, what statutory jurisdiction, whatever you want to call it, do you have authority to come in here and do that?" And they couldn't answer the question. And not only that, they were pushing something on people who understood that it was unconstitutional, and the mandate, whatever you want to call it, did not have the authority of law.
Can we look at it like if I came in and told you, Thumper, you had to wear a pink sweater, and that if you didn't, you were going to get arrested, what would you tell me?
Well, you go buy the pink sweater first, and then I'll decide whether or not I'm going to wear it. Because I sure as hell ain't going to go buy one.
Yeah, but it's past that. It's like I mean, it's really obnoxious.
Yeah.
That's obnoxious, and no one would think to say, "Oh, well, now we're going to tell you now you have to wear pink. You have to, you're breaking the law. You need pink shoes."
Mm-hmm.
It's just
it's someone else coming in and mandating out of nowhere. And trying to pass themselves off as having some kind of authority in which to do that, in which to, muzzle you, as I look at it, you will accede to my authority because I carry a clipboard and I have a little identity badge from, the office of the health department of the city. Okay. So again, we talked about this the other day where, the guy walked up to a security guard with a clipboard after he was looking at a crack in a sidewalk and, appeared to be writing something down on the clipboard. I think I think it was you that was actually telling the story. Am I right? Well, maybe it was somebody else, but anyway, it was, they were doing a security check. Might have been Age of Accountability. He was sharing that with on the show on Saturday or Sunday. But this guy comes walking up, has a little badge on his and one of those little fold over, little badge pocket holders or whatever. Anyway, walks up with a clipboard, and they're checking the security at different military installations. And so he's walking down the sidewalk to the sentry shack to enter into this very highly secured facility. And, and he walks over and he's looking at the sidewalk and he's making notes on his clipboard and everything. And then he goes walking right up to the guard shack and says, "Don't mind me, I'll be done here in just a few minutes." And then just proceeds to walk through the security checkpoint. Well, as he was telling the story, at 2 or 3 places where it was guarded by, they were Army installations, so they were guarded by Army soldiers. They just said, "Oh, okay, sir, sure," and let him through. Okay. And then when he tried it, it was a Navy facility. I don't know what type of facility it was, but the Navy has several that are highly secured. Just try to get into one of the like Bangor, Washington, or Bangor, Maine, where they have the submarines. Try to get in there. Okay. But anyway, he walked up to this Navy sentry post, and, you know, same MO and everything. And said, "Never mind me, just, you know, I'll be done in a moment," and walks right past the sentry. Well, the sentry basically snagged him up, put him up against the wall, and you know, drew his firearm, which was loaded. What wasn't one of these fake sentries? This guy is actually carrying around a loaded piece, and puts this guy up against the wall. And you know, the guy starts to explain, "It's just, I'm doing a security check. I'm doing a security check. Let me make a phone call," you know. And you know, the guard says, "Well, I'm going to call my people first." And you know, they kept this guy there, but you know, the guard wouldn't let him through. So it's the appearance of authority is the point that I'm getting at when they do these kinds of things. It's the appearance of having authority, and they say, "Oh, but they question authority." Oh, so you're not supposed to question authority.
So I guess I want to say that the next situation that happens, I want to ask them, are you living your dream? Are you being all that you can be? Have you lived to your true potential? Look at them really seriously and stare deep at their eyes. And that is the Jedi mind trick, folks.
So, you know, here it is, you know, what we're getting at here. However, those regulations correspond to IRC Section 1, which does not create a specific liability for taxes imposed by Subtitle A. Therefore, these regulations are an overly broad extension of the underlying statutory authority, such as, okay, a broad extension of the underlying statutory authority. Now, you know, okay, now how's that applied to the story? The underlying statutory authority is the idea that there's you know, you might get somebody there who looks very, very official, who is official, by the way. By the way, the guy had a deputy dog badge that he flashed. It actually said deputy dog on it. All right. And a picture of deputy dog as kind of proof that, you know, he wasn't trying to really pass himself off as somebody. It just, you know, how observant was that security guard going to be? All right. So, you know, he was trying to do an extension of an underlying statutory authority that might well exist. However, this guy was faking it. As such, they are unconstitutional, null and void, ab initio, from the beginning in Latin. The Acker case cited above held that the federal regulations cannot exceed the underlying statutory authority. How many of you guys out there have preemption laws in your states? And you're familiar with preemption laws, right, Paul?
Maybe I'm misunderstanding what you're saying. Can you say it again?
Preemption laws.
You'll have to explain. I might just know that as a different term.
Okay. What a preemption law is? Okay, let's say, you know, in the state of Washington, let's just say, because they pop up in the Second Amendment all the time. When you have a local jurisdiction which comes out and says, you can't have a 30-round magazine for your AR-15, but you live in Washington State where a 30-round magazine is perfectly lawful, legal item that you can have in the state according to the state. Okay, now what you have now is you have a city that is implementing a rule or law that's more stringent than the overall statutory authority, which is the state. So you've gone past where the state allows you, and the laws in the state should conform to the state's constitution, which here in the state of Washington isn't always the case, and it hasn't been the case in our federal constitution for some time as well, where they've overstepped the boundaries of the Constitution. So, basically what you have here is preemption. You're preempting the overall authority by writing a law that's more stringent than the current state law. Okay. Same thing is if you have a county ordinance and the city falls within the county, all right, again, the county can't adopt, or the city cannot adopt something that's more stringent than the county. They all have to be in line. Now, there are certain things that you can and can't do, certain laws, codes and regulations that they justify because of, the density of a city. You'll see this when you're dealing with firearm issues and things like that. The fact that a city will not allow, you to go out in your backyard in your neighborhood within city limits and, pop up a couple of rounds of .308, to the other end of the yard into a target. Now, you're going to get visited very, very quickly if you do something like that. But it's not it's not violating an individual right. Now, if the city comes in and says you can't have any guns in our city, then the preemption law would prevent them from being able to do that, because our state constitution says, well, I don't care what that city says. State constitution says you can. All right. So the pertinent court cases have defined the term United States in these clauses to mean, in quote, States United. And the full term means citizen of one of the States United. See People versus De La Guerra, 40 California 311 or 327 1870. See, these cases were coming up in the 1800s, which is kind of interesting, right? People were questioning the law back then. All right, which is you have to consider that. Where did we stop using the law in order to defend our rights and doing the right thing as far as these excursions down the path of leading us into slavedom. Judge Pablo de la Guerra signed the California Constitution of 1849 when California first joined the Union. Similar terms are found in the Diversity Clause at Article 3, Section 2, Clause 1, in the Privileges and Immunities Clause at Article 4, Section 2, Clause 1. Prior to the Civil War, there was only one class of citizen under American law. See the holding in Panhill versus Roanoke, and there's the court case there for definitive authority on this key point. Okay. The second class originates in the 1866 Civil Rights Act, where the term citizen of the United States is used. This act later codified at 42 U.S.C., the United States Code, 1983. Notice the lowercase c in citizen. Okay? Big difference between uppercase and lowercase, when you're, operating under correct what's the word I'm looking for? Punctuation. Okay. The pertinent court cases have held that Congress thereby created a municipal franchise, primarily for members of the Negro race, who were freed by President Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation. a war measure, which is kind of important to keep in mind. And later by the 13th Amendment, banning slavery and involuntary servitude, compelling payment of a tax for which there is no liability statute is tantamount to involuntary servitude and extortion. So see how they've wrapped that back around. You see how that wrapped around there, Paul?
Oh, yeah, I said be right back. I had to go to the bathroom.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm here now. Sorry, I took a minute. Take me to the woodshed.
No. Well, okay. Well, they're talking about this pertinent court case. It created a municipal franchise, and the Civil Rights Act of the 1866 Civil Rights Act, and the act was later codified at 42 USC 1983, where "citizen of the United States" is used. Okay, and you notice the lowercase use of C in citizen there. All right, which is kind of important in all of this. Okay, and they bring that out. The pertinent court cases have held that Congress thereby created a municipal franchise, primarily for members of the Negro race who were freed by President Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation, a war measure, and later by the 13th Amendment. So he did this under war, the Emancipation Proclamation under war, and then they came back and they supposedly cleaned it up with the 13th Amendment, because they needed a new 13th Amendment, because the one that they had wasn't liked, which basically was a result of the War of 1812. They burned everything down in order to get rid of the 13th Amendment, which was the anti-nobility amendment to the Constitution, banning anyone who has a title of nobility or any kind of connection to another country. All right, which meant no lawyers could actually run for any public office. Banning slavery and involuntary servitude, compelling payment of a tax for which there is no liability. So this is what they're making here. The case is compelling the payment of a tax, as an income tax, which there is no liability statute or no basis for implementing it, no constitutional basis for implementing it, is tantamount to involuntary servitude and extortion. Okay, remember the word extortion. Extortion is what kind of crime, Paul?
White collar crime.
It's RICO. It's a RICO crime. Racketeering and fraud and blah, blah, blah. All right. It's extortion. RICO. Think Puerto Rico. Okay. Instead of using the unique term federal citizen as found in Black's Law Dictionary, and there's a 6th edition, it is now clear that the radical Republicans who sponsored the 1866 Civil Rights Act were attempting to confuse these two classes of citizens. No, the radical Republicans in 1866 or thereabouts, we had radical Republicans back then, Paul? I guess we did. Then they attempted to elevate the second-class constitutional status by proposing a 14th Amendment to the Constitution. So they're starting to build on everything, okay? Now remember, this is after the Civil War. This is also, we had to do what in order to prosecute the Civil War financially, Paul?
I don't know. I'm typing. We had to do to prosecute.
No, obviously.
No, you're trying to keep me. You're trying to keep me enthralled with something I'm not enthralled with. I get it, man. I'm totally with you. I am. I just stepped out for a second, and then you asked me a question.
I'm just trying to bring the point around that. Well, okay. How? Let me ask you this. Okay. How does this not affect you in some way? What about this story would capture your imagination or intrigue you enough about the history and the story of how, I'm sure you filled out a 1040 form and paid your duly owed taxes at least at some point in your life?
Yeah, but once you make the choice, it's a choice, right? We all have choices to make in life, and if you go back to the document that I suggested everyone read, the Majestic 12 document. In there, they say it's your choice, and Q would say the same thing. It's your choice, free will, your choice, whether you work, whether you pay taxes, whether you do any of it. So at some point, you have to make the choice for yourself. And for me, I made the line in the sand is a lot of this stuff, and I refuse. I'm no longer.
I understand. Did you make that choice after taking a look at it? And because in one of the things that we see President Trump doing is extracting us from this spider web of deceit and corruption and crime and everything else to hopefully not have to burn down the house. I mean, we're taking apart something that's been very intricately built in order to entrap and ensnare as many people as possible through fraud and deceit and coercion and extortion, of their naturally inalienable freedoms and rights. Okay, and I mean, some people are just going to be sheeple the rest of their lives. They're just going to, decide to be sheeple. And if they so choose to do that, there's really not much we can do about it, is there, Paul?
No, I'll give you an example of where I see things. I'm Facebook free for 12 years, and when I want to purchase something, everyone goes, "Oh, did you go to Facebook? Do you look at Facebook? Can you go to Facebook?" It's like, no, and no, and no. And out of principle, I don't use it because of what Mark Zuckerberg said to all of us. And he called us the dumb MRFers, right? So, if we're disrespecting ourselves by using something that someone's service that disrespects you, then you have no respect for yourself.
Absolutely 100%.
Yes. So this is what this is all about. It's about holding the line, standing the line, making a line, and not fucking crossing it again. And
how do you do that when in everything about our world is wrapped up in this in some form or fashion? You use our buy gas car.
It's difficult. You have to stand up. It's the.
I get it. There are some things that in this world, unless you're going to go and buy a piece of property out in the middle of nowhere and walk to town on trails, don't drive a car, don't own a car, don't do all. I mean, to hold true to that. I mean, there are people out there that are doing it, and more power to them. But in so many ways, the system is designed to entrap you and drag you back in. Whether, it's like I have absolutely no desire, nothing about social media platforms intrigues me in any way whatsoever. Believe me. I did get involved on Facebook at the 2016 election because I just felt that that was one way I had of at least expressing the extreme frustration I saw happening in this country when we had a bitch like Hillary Clinton running against, whoever we put up as a Republican. All right. And whether I did any good or not, it was very therapeutic to put my word out there. But I objected to the idea of Facebook from the beginning.
Yeah, and how many thousands of dollars have I lost from not using Facebook? Because I could have wheeled and dealed on there and made thousands and thousands of dollars, and I chose not to. On top of that, I want to explain a situation that portrays how you can stand up. I'm in a pawn shop recently, standing in a pawn shop, looking at someone who's got sidearm on them. They're not concealed. They're open carrying at the shop owner, and none of us are wearing masks. This was just the other day, and I'm talking about buying something that they don't have, and they're like, "Oh." The one guy looks on his phone for me, and then he looks around and he goes, "Oh, I saw one up the road. Why don't you go there?" And then at the last second, they all go, "Oh, but did you look on Facebook?" And this is like a 60-year-old guy and a 60-year-old woman, and I'm like, no. And I had to explain to them why I don't use that service. And I said the same story that I just said here, and it's like surreal. These are people who we could say are freedom lovers. They own a pawn shop. They're not wearing masks. They've got a sidearm, but they haven't gone to the last step. They haven't stood up for respect of everything, which is yourself. You can't respect others. You can't respect the environment. You can't respect your whole self unless you respect yourself first.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I sort of try to ignore some of this stuff, because it's disrespectful in the end. Mm-hmm. And that's why, like, it seems to me that it doesn't matter in the end. It's the free choice that you preach to these people over and over and over again, all of our listeners. And that free choice is that you have a choice to do all this stuff. It's harder if you don't do the stuff they want you to. Of course it is. But that's where we stand our ground, and not give an inch, because they keep taking miles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm done preaching.
Well, no, I absolutely understand and get where you're going. So it's believe me, when I decided to go onto Facebook, I felt that there was something there that I could do. I still have a Facebook account, but I hate going into it. And the problem was, this last summer when I was involved with the Culp campaign, everything they did was through Facebook. I mean, just all the posts, all the videos of the different meetups, rallies, whatever you want to call them, the virtual meet and greets was all done primarily through Facebook. And and the thing was, even the campaign was doing things through Facebook, and I go, no, I didn't hear about that. Well, we put it out on Facebook. Oh, for crying out loud! Are you serious? But it just goes to show you how even the most well-intended persons haven't made that full connection yet. That's disturbing.
I guess sidestepping it. So I'm trying to sidestep it and not be brash in the approach to how we come about on all this stuff. If we approach it head on, it will run us over. So you come at an angle and have to be a little more tricky about it, and you just stand up. Like I had someone preaching covenants to me today, and they all, can we convince you? And it's like, no, this is not for me. It's when we stand our ground and say it's not for me, that only the other doors that they had would open up and appear. Oh, well, we have this that has no covenants. Well, why didn't you bring that out first? No, you want me to sign a contract with covenants first, which is pretty,
Yeah, I agree.
telling.
They play that game. By the way, somewhere along the way today, you folks out there in YouTube or D Live, did we lose our Twitch account again? Did they get snotty with us again? I can't seem to find the Twitch account. It doesn't seem to be active right at the moment. Maybe I should go check Element and see if there's a note out there saying that we oh yeah. Okay, it looks like apparently it's a permanent ban on Twitch. Thank you. It says Radix. Okay, so Twitch is no longer gonna let us play on their playground. Oh well, their loss. Bye, Twitch. See you later. Maybe not. Okay, I have more room on my desktop now. Wow, cool. There is a silver lining to every cloud, huh? All right. So anyway, back to what you were saying, Paul. Yeah. And there's certain things, I've drawn the line. No, I'm not going to do no damn mask. And there's other things that I won't get into that I have definitely drawn the line on. And unfortunately, so many of the articles, so many of the things that we deal with here at Patriot Soapbox, I basically need to have a Twitter account, and let's face it, without Twitter, would President Trump, he's basically using their own weapon against them by doing what he's doing through Twitter, which I think is, whenever you can take the tools of the assault, the assaultee or assaulter, and take his baseball bat and turn it around on him and beat his ass with it. I think just the sheer idea of the how ironic that is kind of cool. Anyway. So anyway, we're getting at, okay, so the radical Republicans who sponsored the 1866 Civil Rights Act were attempting to confuse these two classes of citizens. Okay, we have federal citizen and I think they referred to one as a citizen or so there's different classes of citizen, different types of citizens. Did you know that? Then they attempted to elevate the second class to constitutional status by proposing the 14th Amendment to the Constitution. As we know, that proposal was never ratified. See answer to question 6 above. Numerous court cases have struggled to clarify the important differences between the two classes. One of the most definitive and dispositive cases is Peniel versus Roanoke. And there's the court case in 1918, which clearly held that federal citizens had no standing to sue under the diversity clause. What's the diversity clause, you ask? Let's take a look. Article 1. All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in the Congress of the United States which shall consist of a Senate, House, and House of Representatives. No person shall be a representative who shall not have attained to the age of 25 years and have been 7 years a citizen of the United States, and who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of that state in which he shall be chosen. Representatives and direct taxes shall be apportioned among the several states which may be included within this union according to their respective numbers, which shall be determined by adding to the whole number of the free persons, including those bound to service for a term of years, and excluding Indians not taxed, 3/5 of all other persons, 3/5. The actual enumeration shall be made within 3 years after the first meeting of the Congress of the United States, with every subsequent term of 10 years, in such manner as they shall by law direct. The number of representatives, okay, this is how they chose the number of, okay. So they, Supreme Law Library reference White House Constitution, the Constitution of the United States. All right, so you can go back there. All right, let's go back to the document here. Because they were not even contemplated when Article 3 of the U.S. Constitution was first being drafted circa 1787 AD. Another is Ex parte Nolles, 5 California 300, 1855, in which the California Supreme Court ruled that there was no such thing as a citizen of the United States. Are you a citizen of the United States? Or are you a citizen of your respective state? As of the year of 1855 AD, only federal citizens have standing to invoke 42 U.S.C. 1983, whereas state citizens do not. See Wadley versus Newhall. Okay, 136F. Many more cases can be cited to confirm the existence of two classes of citizens under the American law. These cases are thoroughly documented in the book entitled The Federal Zone, Cracking the Code of the Internal Revenue by Paul Andrew Mitchell, Bachelor of Science, MS. Now in its 11th edition. Also see pleadings in the case of USA. Okay, so this gives more documentation as far as this classification of, who are you? Who are you, and are you legally bound to, anything the IRS does? Okay, how did you end up being, one of the slaves, dutifully going in, getting a job, and when you sit down with the employment, the human resources director, and get your training and get all your paperwork signed and sign your W-2 and 1040 and all that other fun stuff, and then you stand up and say, well, no, I'm sorry. I'm not going to allow you to withhold any of my taxes. There will no, I'm not going to let you do that. Oh, you're some kind of rebel rouser, blah, 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 blah. And then, you kind of get tagged. And at some point they may or may not decide to continue to keep you for as an employee because you're one of them. Can you see that happening, Paul?
Yes, that's what I was kind of leaning towards when I mentioned it before, that you're the person that they don't like because you're testing the system. You're putting your toes in the water first.
Well, here's the thing. You think they're why do you think they would feel that way? Okay, because I think there's a couple of different reasons why they might feel that way.
Because what happens if you tell the next guy? What happens if you tell someone else at work, and then they tell someone else, and then all of them are doing it?
Whoa. Back up though. So what's the gruff? Maybe that person that is handing you those forms might be interested too. Do they have a stake in the game? Or did they take an oath to the deep state? I promise to make sure everybody pays their taxes because I'm a slave and I'm a dutiful slave of the state, and I want everybody else to be slaves too. Or is that person just as uneducated as everyone else out there? And those of us that are willing to stand up and be strong in these things and show them, because a lot of people are no. You can't tell me I can drive 100 miles an hour down the street and get away with it. No, not going to go there. It's just dangerous. You could hurt somebody. Yeah, that's just being that, because they're going to use the same tack with you when it comes. Well, how's our government going to survive if it doesn't have the money that we send it to them? Okay. So we have to learn how to express these things to people. So, if we just give them an edict, well, are we any better than the people on the other side? Don't ask why. Just take my word for it because I know. That's pretty freaking arrogant, don't you think?
Yeah, and I think they do have more than one dog in the fight. They also want to look good to the boss so that they can, brown nose a wee bit, so that and they wouldn't do it themselves necessarily. And then on top of that, they don't want to see somebody doing. It's jealousy too. They don't want to see someone getting away with something that they can't do themselves or didn't do themselves.
They're too
there's so many variations of what they have invested in it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hey,
it's the same as if you're not wearing your mask, you're not paying your taxes, you're not contributing, you're not beautiful because you're not one.
Okay, I thought that'd get your I'm just going to tell you, I need to go get a cup of coffee. Keep rattling, keep ranting. Okay.
I don't know why I got disconnected that time. Sorry. Can you hear me? Oh shoot, you walked away and I got disconnected. Okay, well, I hope people can hear me. He's okay. He said he must be able to hear me. He's yelling from the other room. Well, that was unfortunate timing that I got dropped off the cliff of internet service. This is really hard for me because Thumper knows I've sort of stepped out of all this. Something I was thinking about was that as far as the other forms go that they want you to sign and complete, you can be poor, you can be penniless, you can be homeless, like they said, choose not to work, or you can work and try and, you could demand cash. There's one. Not a lot of people want to completely pay you in cash, and they always try and figure a way to pay you in another form. So and then they'll be like, well, this is about over $5,000, so we can't pay you that way because you don't want to not pay taxes on $5,000, do you? And you surely wouldn't do that, would you? So you get the look and you're not doing what I'm doing, and I'm not going to hire you because I can't take the tax break. But so you've got those issues with hey, let's all wear pink shoes. We're all wearing pink shoes, like tennis shoes, hot pink tennis shoes. That's my favorite one. Yeah, I'm game. No, not sorry. But so you look at it like, what other ways of service can I get to commit this service for someone? And you're like, oh, well, you could trade. You could trade things. That's why they really hate trading, because there's nothing they can do for that. Oh yeah, I'd like to trade my rent for my labor, and then, oh no, we can't do that because that's just wrong, or making trades with, I don't want to tell you the next one, but it's, they want to pay you in a check, but then if you write your name on a check, the name can be traced, and you go to put it in a bank account with parentheses. Then now apparently they're making 1099s to bank accounts. And I was like, well, man, I've been away from this a little bit too long, and so that should be illegal. That shouldn't be legal to do that, to make have people do 1099s to bank accounts when you open a bank account. So then you can not put a name on a check and still get a check. I won't elaborate, but I think you guys get what I'm getting at. And then, yes, so they're just how far are you willing to go to step out of the box that they have built for you? I don't even care to consider the whole citizen thing, because I have a whole nother sidestep for that too. And I can't release that yet because it's a project I've been bestowed, and so that will come, and I will announce it when I'm ready and when I have everything together. It is a legal maneuver to pretty much get out of everything Thumper has been talking about. Yes, I can't say any more right now. Okay. I did come up with an idea for a lot of you that might think of an interesting one. Is it's called a trust. And yes, that's what the elite have been doing, as a trust. But imagine if you have a 100-person trust. The nightmare in court would be to get everyone from that trust to show up, and they wouldn't be able to do it. So then the court hearing can be delayed inevitably forever until everyone has their opportunity to show up in testimony and whatnot. And no court is going to want to hear that or deal with it. So there is a conundrum in the legal system. And if anyone wants to put one together, I would be, especially, I would be willing to go there. Yeah. There's sure a lot of squiggly lines with this, with dates and whatnot, isn't there, Thumper?
Oh yeah, yeah. I apologize. I couldn't get your attention there, and I just wanted to ask you to keep going because I wanted to go get a cup of coffee.
Yeah, well, just as you did that, the freaking thing dropped on me, and I was like, "Oh no!" And then I come back and I see the chair empty, and I'm like, "Am I on?" Because I usually, when I come back, you say, "Oh, he's dropped and he's came back," and I didn't have you to do that this time.
I'm trying to get your attention. I apologize for yelling like that, but I just wanted to say, hey, keep it going, dude.
So we came to 40,000 feet, and we're hanging out there tonight, and you guys will just have to bear with us on this. I think Thumper's work is important, and this is it's dear to me in a lot of ways, and I get really amped about it. And sometimes I got to remember to come back down to earth and not be such a Flighty Starseed. That's
well, yeah, and oh, I see where Danusha has put out the other document that I have here tonight, 31 questions and answers about the Internal Revenue Service, and that is kind of the supporting document that I want to get to a point on this document. Then we'll flip over to that, and what's really cool about that document is it's that document, the one that Danusha is posting out there for you guys, is really it shows how they implemented these different things throughout our history, and how one built on the next and on the next and on the next, and how they took the Lego pieces and built this cage, and we were inspired and lied to in order to help them do this to us. And it just, all of this really supports what we've been trying to do here at Patriot Soapbox, and so many other patriots around the country have been trying to do. And that is to show, so that we can show others how they got caught up in this. And at some point, somewhere along the line, you hope that there's that one magical little piece of information that clicks that red light for that individual, to start thinking about what kind of a predicament we've allowed ourselves to get into. And we've all at some point in our lives been caught up into it. Now, some people 10, 20 years younger than I have started seeing this stuff, but it's what I find amazing is the major group that migrated and found PSB and found it so intriguing was the baby boomer group. That was the baby boomers when we first started Patriot Soapbox, was probably made up slightly over 75, probably well over 75% of our audience. Now, I understand there's a lot of folks out there that are not baby boomers, but for the most part, the baby boomers have been the ones. And as soon as I go let Barky Dog in, I'll come back and explain that. Paul, you there? I got to go let Barky Dog back in the house.
Oh, okay. No worries. Yeah. I don't know why did you bring up boomers real quick?
Because of the well, I was going to explain that as soon as I get back.
Okay, just the audience makeup probably. I'm good with I used to work for actually my first contract I ever did was for a elderly lady, and man, there's so much information you learn from them. I was 12, hanging out and talking. She was telling me about ice. The big blocks of ice that come in from the lake and hoed in by the horses, and how they use sawdust to cover them up. Now, I know it might seem like I'm getting off track, but honestly, I learned that little tidbit of information has led to lots of other information that has come to my brain. Just covering ice with sawdust will keep it. It's there's lots of little secrets into things, but devaluating someone for their knowledge and their participation in this world is not a good thing to do. It's not unifying us, and I don't see that as a positive outcome for us. There's you can debate whether millennials are good or bad. There's good ones and there's bad ones, and so let's let's steer away from disregarding a whole generation of people because they were born into that generation.
No. The point that I was making was that the baby boomers are in a unique position during this time frame, and the reason for that is because, number one, we are the baby boomer generation is the largest economic powerhouse out there. Okay, and at this point in time, we generate a tremendous amount of commerce. Okay, because we're mostly well established. Some making good money, some have retired on good money. There's been times when you could make really good money over the past, let's say, 40, 50 years. All right. And they're starting to retire. Why do you think there's timeshares? Why do you think that there are, there's an RV lot on every corner, for crying out loud? Because, and the explosion of recreational vehicles, all the way from motorcycles, Harley Davidsons. The baby boomers are the ones that are out there, the ones with the good money, the big money. They're buying all of the old 1969 Camaros and the older cars, because we were raised in that generation, and now we have the money to generate in those. I mean, they may sound like real small things, but when you look at a Barrett Jackson auction, and people are paying, bidding on these restored classic muscle cars and stuff like that, who's buying them? It's the baby boomers with bucks that are doing it. All right. But we've seen this whole explosion of government regulations. We've owned our businesses. We've sold our businesses. We've worked for big employers, small employers, whatever the case. And we've seen this whole system constantly building against us in order to get ahead. All right. And, who would have thought, let's say you're me, and I'm when I was 25 years old. All right. At that point in time, if I'd had gone to a financial planner and he says, well, how do you want to retire? I want to retire and be fairly comfortable. Well, one of the first things he'd say, well, you're going to need about this amount of money in order to retire. And so you follow their guidelines and everything. You make investments and things like that. Well, at 25 years of age, for one, it's kind of unique that someone at 25 years of age is actually looking at that. And then, earnestly be trying to build that nest egg that you want to retire with. All right. And, I looked at it, and at that point, they were already talking about, are we going to have enough in the Social Security Administration? The Social Security, I'm paying into it. What are you doing with it? Oh, well, this and that, they don't really tell us what we're, but we're dutifully paying into it. We're also dutifully paying our taxes and doing all of the right things and everything. And then as we get a little further down the road, we start to see the government, manipulating things. We start to see the evidence of manipulation. Let's go to 2008, when we had the big crash. And we see how the stock market has been manipulated, and how many baby boomers lost their nest eggs when all of a sudden the stock market just ripped it all out from underneath them. And to gain back from that in the short period of time that you had left in your working career, if you ever had the hopes of being able to retire, was very disturbing for a lot of people. And what were you told? You're told, stay in the stock market, stay in the stock market. Don't give up. Don't give up on the stock market. Where do you think that stock market would be right now if Hillary would have won the election? Oh, they'd have destroyed it. What has President Trump been doing? He's been forcing that stock market and the economy to keep moving because he knew what he was up against. Okay. Enron, yeah, another one. Yeah. So all of the, so it's the baby boomers out there that have felt the corruption and the effect of all of this more than any other generation out there. My parents' generation, they got out before they started to really, slap us around. All right. And if they were able to secure for themselves a fairly nice financial future. Whereas the baby boomers got it ripped right out from under them. All right. No other generation has suffered, in my opinion, financially the last several years, right at the, at the point where we're hitting our so-called golden years. And now what's left? Well, my kids, the millennial generation and the Gen X folks, you guys have had one hell of a battle trying to gain ground. It's been extremely tough for you guys to gain ground. Because now you're competing against experienced baby boomers who have to go back to work or are staying at work, taking up those higher paid, more experienced level jobs. They're not moving out so you can move up. All right. Because they're trying to recover what they lost that's been stolen from them. All right. And you also saw this stuff happening, what made you very, very suspicious of government and authority, straight up. It created a disconnect between you guys and authority. So it's put you in a very Dewey Osborne says, my generation restores cars, Gen X restore a computer. Yep. Okay. So, and I'm not trying to, I'm giving you solid facts and reasons why this movement is being moved almost entirely by baby boomers. And it's not because we've got a stake in this thing. Number one, we have a stake, but our children, our grandchildren have a stake in this. And we are also at an age where we are not sitting in rocking chairs ready to just, disconnect from the world. We still have fight in us. In other words, when I look at my parents, I see the fight gone. They've heard it all before. They've heard, people, President Reagan, different politicians come up and say, yeah, we're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to save us from this, save us from that. And it just never has panned out. But now when it appears that there's an opportunity through President Trump and the Q operation, that there's a chance that something actually is going to get done. And
they won't.
It's fired up the baby boomers like you wouldn't believe.
They won't give me my house back. I've lost a lot of equity that was built up in what I did to the place. And, you're talking about, I paid $100,000 for a home and I made it into a $180,000 home. And because of unscrupulous people and unscrupulous corporations, i.e. insurance companies, I've lost everything. And then, there's other people out there who lost them for unscrupulous people, too. and unscrupulous situations. I mean, well stripped right there.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
and
you're probably you're Gen X, right?
Yeah, and unlike your experience, you know, one of my parents has given my inheritance to before, you know, back to the system, back to the communist system that she adores, and my other parent is slowly losing his mind, so he can't, you know, he probably won't take care of the stuff. And when you suggest good investments for those things, and neither one of them have really had a you know, my dad had his home stripped from him from an unscrupulous insurance company, and forced to sell it through the divorce hearing. You've got that well stripped from him. You've got and from us, you've got it's just a different, and that was a late bloom for him. You know, they lived in church housing, so they didn't actually have to purchase anything, so they were quite laissez-faire with their money. So you've got other situations that, you know, that I want to proclaim that are there, and other than what, you know, Thumper is insinuating is a lot of the cases in a lot of places. But money that has been trapped, stolen, extorted, yeah, and like you said, it has screwed the next couple of generations, and it's not been fair. And as the wrench gets turned tighter, the next generation down the line has nothing, and COVID even turns the wrench even 10 times tighter. You know, I feel it, and I can see it. What are those people that are 20 years old now? What are they doing during COVID? They're not moving about the country. They're not experiencing things. They're stuck in their job. They're not going to quit a job because they're scared. They don't know where their next money is going to come. So whatever job they have, they're holding on to it and clinging on to it, and not making better things and better choices, and moving and progressing through the lines that we all could have. And so this is pretty much the precipice of the financial disaster. And if people don't see it, they've really been disconnected.
And that's the point that I'm trying to make with this documentation and tonight's show, is that just like the willingness of people to wear a mask, okay, now they have come at you physically, okay, with this whole mask thing. They're threatening major pandemics. You're gonna die. You're gonna get this nasty thing. You are a leper in the community here if you're not doing these things. You know, again, it's the same thing as you know, those people who absolutely, and I do absolutely refuse to wear a mask. And as such, you know, you start after a while. I take it as a matter of pride that I don't wear a mask. But at some point, those of us that are standing up saying, I will not wear a mask, it ain't gonna happen. All right. What we're seeing in these states that are mandating these masks is they just keep pushing the issue. So other states that are not pushing this mask mandate and this Thanksgiving, you know, lockdown mandate and all this other silly ass crap, you know, look at what it's doing to our society. You know, look at what just the, you know, you can't, you know, You can't go to another family member's house because there's going to be somebody there who doesn't agree with your position. All right. And you are warned before you go. Don't bring up politics. Oh, for crying out loud. That sets me off like nobody's business. Because first off, you want to muzzle me. Secondly, everything about just getting together for Thanksgiving, they have implied that you can't do that. If you have more than a couple of people if you have people from different family groups coming to the same house, now you violated somebody's mandate, either California, Oregon, or Washington, or Minnesota, or wherever, by bringing all these people from different households into the same house. And they're implying like they have authority to tell you cannot do that. And then you have one person that says, well, we're not going to have politics at Thanksgiving. Well, they made Thanksgiving, just getting together, a political issue. They're trying to make it that way. And you have somebody there that says, oh, I'm just okay with that. It's not a problem. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? That is so obscene. And you know, it speaks to why we are here at this moment in time discussing exactly what we're discussing here tonight. And it's absolutely obscene to me. Families are being kept apart because it's not polite to talk about politics. You know, you might hurt my feelings. And you need to shut up and sit down. Oh, here, have some stuffing. Isn't this a wonderful? Let's give thanks for what we have. What do we have? I'm not saying we don't have any reason to be thankful. Sure, we have a ton of crap to be thankful for. It's not crap. We have a ton of wonderful, wonderful things to be thankful for. But what is that? What is that person from the other side? What are they actually thankful for? Are they thankful that you won't challenge them? Are they thankful that you can't get together and have an intelligent conversation about what is actually really truly happening in our world and where it leads? Boy, I'll tell you what, nothing will fire me up more than that. Yeah. So, if I'm put in that kind of a situation, I will just not be there. Okay. I'm not going to go someplace and have somebody say, if you come in here, you can't do that. Excuse me, free country. But I have also the freedom to say, no, thank you, I'm out. The same way we should be able to say, I don't like what they've been doing with the taxes. I don't like what I see them doing with my taxes. Why should I be empowering them to continue to oppress me, steal from me, and take what is not theirs away from me, and then imply that I have some kind of a moral duty to do what they say? Excuse me? That is really, really obscene to me. Well,
yeah, and on that note, they think that they're gonna take more inches, or that we're gonna give them more inches, and they're gonna take more miles, and this is just the first step of it. If you guys, I'm sure you already see this, but it's a sickening thing. So it's more important that we don't give more inches, and we stand our ground firm, and like Vector said, hold the line. On top of that, don't forget the meme Kung Flu, because this is just a flu. And if you looked around and you said flu, and you're like, oh well, wait, just as many people were dying from the flu. Why the hell are we doing all this? No, for the flu. It makes no sense.
Okay, hey,
Remind them it makes no sense.
Okay, Paul, before we leave, we've got about 5 minutes left of the show. It went really fast tonight. Good gravy. But before we roll out here, I want to get to this really quick. I'm just going to do a real quick overview because Danusha has been putting it into the live chat there, these documents. But there's 31 questions, okay? This, and the interesting thing is, the Cooper file. This was actually something done by William Cooper. All right, which should he wrote the Pale Horse. All right, and many other documents, talking about all of this stuff. All right, and so these 31 questions. There's let's just start. The art of illusion. The magic is the art of illusion. Those who practice magic are called magi. They have created a web of obfuscation and confusion in the law. When the courts have ruled them unconstitutional or unlawful, they merely stepped aside jurisdiction and venue. That's what you see with the IRS. You actually see them. They step aside. They set it off to the side. They take it out of the venue that has authority. But they don't tell you they did that. Now, legally, lawfully, it provides you're out, but you're never told. It was never explained to you how that affected your relationship with them. By fooling the people, they continued the crime. These magicians have convinced Americans that we have a status we do not, meaning they have created a situation where you thought you were doing the right thing, but you misidentified yourself as being someone who they have authority or jurisdiction over. They don't. We are led to believe we must do things that are not required. Through the clever use of language, the government promotes the fraud. And the government didn't do you any favors either because they went along with it. The Bureau of Internal Revenue Service and the alleged International Revenue Service were not created by Congress. These are not organizations or agencies of the Department of the Treasury or of the federal government. They appear to be operated through pure trusts. You're talking trusts earlier. Administered by the Secretary of the Treasury, the trustee, the settler of the trust, and the beneficiary or beneficiaries are unknown. According to the law governing trusts, the information does not have to be revealed. So they made it okay for them not to tell you who the beneficiaries of the trust were. I wonder who that was. Where do they take these ill-gotten gains? And what are the actual ill-gotten gains? All right. It's not found in USC 31. Constructive fraud. The investigation found out, except for the very few who are engaged in specific activities, that citizens of the 50 states of the United States of America had never been required to file or pay income taxes. The federal government is engaged in constructive fraud on a massive scale. Americans who have been frightened into filing and paying income taxes have been robbed of their money. Millions of lives have been ruined. Hundreds of thousands of innocent people have been imprisoned on the pretense they violated laws that do not exist. Some have been driven to suicide. Marriages have been destroyed. Property has been confiscated to pay taxes that were never owed. And then they get into some of these things. Philippine Trust number 1, Philippine Trust number 2. In Section 3, we find the Collector of Internal Revenue Service, under the direction of the Secretary of Finance and Justice, shall have general superintendence of the assessment and collection of all taxes and excises imposed by this act or by any act mandatory thereof, and shall perform such other duties as may be required by law. Customs and BIR. BIR, what you say is that? That is the Bureau of Internal Revenue, which was the original name. And they changed it to the IRS, Internal Revenue Service. Internal, meaning it's internal to your government. It has no connection to there at all. Demon alcohol. What does prohibition have to do with how we got taxes? It explains that. Federal Alcohol Act, okay. The Internal Revenue, Puerto Rico. At some unknown date prior to 1940, another Bureau of Internal Revenue was established in Puerto Rico. The 67 Trust Fund was created. So there you go. Danush has been putting this link out there for you guys. You need to get there. take a look at this stuff, look through it. You're going to get educated like you wouldn't believe on this stuff. And it is now 2 o'clock, and it's time for Rooster. Good evening, Rooster. How you doing?
Hey, how we doing, Thumper?
Oh, we're just kicking butt on the IRS tonight.
Oh, man. I wish you would, man.
No wonder we got kicked off Twitch.
That happened earlier today. Didn't happen during.
Just kidding.
Anyway, folks, I'm gonna, instead of taking up Rooster's time, and just pretend that we flipped the TR3B around, and we got back to good old planet Earth, and we're here where we've got all these problems. So you've been educated a little bit more. Hope you have something that you can carry with you, and maybe do a little deep dive in yourself with the 2 documents that Danusha has been giving you out there in the chat. Those I have found through all my years of digging into this stuff. This is probably one of the most comprehensive documents that I have found that really, ties a lot of this together. And maybe if you've got the right crowd at your Thanksgiving dinner, you might be able to share some of it. Yeah, Beverly Fraser, inheritance tax, death tax.
Take care and God bless, Rooster.
Yeah. So thank you, everyone, for joining us for Hyperdrive tonight. We appreciate it. Y'all have a great rest of the evening, morning, whatever it is. And I'll see you in a few hours for a couple of hours of some straight shooting. In the meantime, Paul, thank you very much for hanging in there with me tonight. Appreciate it. I think he bailed out already. So, Rooster, you have a good evening. How's your day going, by the way?
Oh, doing all right, man. Doing all right. Just hanging out here, enjoying the snowless weather for once. It's been following me around the last few days.
Hence the need for tires and then, unfortunately, brakes. I saw your announcement there, man.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, after the show, we're going to play How Much Did That Cost?
Can't be cheap when you're dealing with a rig, an over-the-road rig. I can imagine it doesn't come cheap.
Yeah, well, brake shoes on the car, they're about the size of the palm of your hand. Brake shoes on the semi, they're about the size of a cowboy boot, and the problem is there's 2 of them on each axle.
Yeah.
There's a top and there's a bottom to it.
Yep.
And they're not sold together. They're sold.
It's something you're not going to do alongside the road, is it?
Actually, you can change brakes on the side of a road, but I don't recommend it.
Yeah. Well, it looked like you had a couple of drums there that got a little overheated too.
Oh yeah, I'll bring the nice little picture of them. Don't know how that happened. I just really wasn't even planning to go in for the brake job. I had a tire with a slow leak, and I'm like, well, I had some scrubbing coming from the front end, passenger side on the brakes. Y'all want to look at it? Oh boy. It started, well, your pads are separating, then, we'll change them out. Well, they pull the drum off to get to the brake pads, and they lay it on the ground like, ooh, that ain't good. Because they take the little plastic scraper, and then, yeah, it's hanging. Yeah, you got to change that. That's got to get done now.
Yeah. No,
it was just like spider webbing cracks. It's okay, but